You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. But right now we start the conversation with the South African National Defence Force. So South Africa has announced that it's going to withdraw its troops from the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, ending nearly 3 decades of continuous peacekeeping in the conflict-wracked country. The presidency, you may have seen, said in a statement that the decision was driven by the need to consolidate and realign the resources of the South African National Defence Force after 27 years of support for the United Nations peacekeeping efforts in the DRC. So South Africa is currently among the top 10 troop contributing countries to MONUSCO. I think we've got about 700 soldiers who are deployed in the DRC in support of the mission's peacekeeping mandate, if I'm not mistaken. And remember, MONUSCO was established by the United Nations Security Council in 1999, initially to support the Lusaka ceasefire agreement. Siphiwe Dlamini is the spokesperson for the SANDF, joining us on the line. Siphiwe, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Clement, and good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having me on your station.
Let's start by clarifying to the listeners the difference between this United Nations peacekeeping mission that we are withdrawing from and the SAMI DRC mission, which was terminated last year already.
Yeah, that's a good and important point you are raising, Clement. The UN mission is called MONUSCO, which is a UN-mandated mission in the DRC to deal with all security issues that are bedeviling that region. And the SAMI DRC is purely a SADC, which is the Southern African Development Community mission. It is made out of the SADC countries. In this case, it was mainly made up of South Africa, Tanzania, and Malawi. Whereas MONUSCO is much bigger and larger. MONUSCO, I think, has about close to 20,000 members of that mission from various countries, which include South Africa.
Yeah.
So, and it's purely a United Nations sanctioned mission, whereas SAMI DRC is a SADC sanctioned mission.
So their mandates were different?
In a way, yes. The mandates were different. Safe to say that they still have a robust engagement with the what I would call negative forces in that region. But their mandate, in the end, were to ensure that there is security and stability in that region.
The presidency said in their statement that this decision was influenced by the need to consolidate and realign the resources of the SANDF. How much has this kind of deployment cost our government?
Clement, you're putting me in a very difficult position. The statement is from the higher office, and I'm not sure if I'm competent enough to respond to that. Safe to say, we have been in the DRC through MONUSCO for the past almost 30 years. I think it's about 27 years. And since the time of our first president, Mandela. So I can imagine what cost has gone into the mission, and again, we do get reimbursed in accordance to the UN rules and regulations. But I wouldn't want to go into that because that statement is from the higher office.
Yes, I get that it's from the higher office, but I'm asking from the SANDF side, how much are we spending on a deployment like this? I think has the SANDF not been just checking how much money is actually must be invested by them in this mission on an annual basis, or how much has been invested at least over the last 2 decades or the 27 years?
We will have to balance our books, but the mission comes in two phases, Clement. The UN is responsible for financing the entire mission.
Yeah.
And where the UN, if we bring in our equipment like we've done, The UN then reimburses us in relation to what we've brought into that mission. So there is reimbursements, and it will be a bit difficult for me to give you a ball figure that what South Africa has used or invested in that mission. But the UN takes the bulk, if not all of the finances around the United Nations sanctioned mission. Okay.
So what are we expecting? What difference will this decision make broadly in the function of the SANDF? Because the presidency says it's trying to respond to the capacity constraints within the SANDF, I would imagine. That's why the presidency says the decision is influenced by the need to consolidate and realign the resources. And part of those constraints in the SANDF include financial constraints. We all know how the SANDF has also been a victim of budget cuts.
Clement, you keep putting me in a very difficult position, but I'll try and respond. Look, there is what we call, or that's what we term, operational pause in military terms. Operational pause simply means you stand back and look at how things have been going over a period of time. And I think the president has reached that point that we need to reflect and look at how we have performed and what are the challenges that we've had, if any, and what have been the positives that we can draw from this mission. And therefore, the operational pause came into being. Of course, I mean, it's no secret that there's been financial and budgetary constraints within the SANDF, and that matter, I'm pleased, and I've always been saying to everybody that government has really taken this matter quite seriously, and there's been discussions between ourselves, National Treasury, the presidency itself, and the cluster, security cluster, on how funding or budgeting should be made for the security cluster as a whole, and in particular the South African National Defence Force.
So in the context of these financial and budgetary constraints, why are you planning to spend so many millions on a single symbolic event this month, the Armed Forces Day?
I expected that question, and thanks for asking that question, Clement. I think there's two issues that we need to look at. One, it's a very symbolic but equally important day in the calendar of the SANDF. We have not had Armed Forces Day in the past 2 years. The last Armed Forces Day was, I think, held in 2023 in Richards Bay, and it's a very important day in the SANDF in the sense that it brings all of us together and has a lot of impact. But the second issue, Clement, is that it's not a one-day event. It's an event that takes about 2 weeks in that place where we are. We send out various services to the communities that are in that area. In particular, if I may, in this case, we've sent out engineers, construction people, and machinery to help with the situation that the province finds itself after the devastating floods that happened about two weeks ago. So we've got our capabilities in that regard to help the municipality and the districts that will be in there. And we've sent also our medical practitioners, your doctors, your veterinary services, and social workers, etc. We've been through a program called OA2, where we've been assisting old people with cataract, for instance, and then other various ailments. We've been in Waterberg, we've been in Sekhukhune, we've been in many other places that offering military health services. So it's not a one day off. The one day culminates only on the 21st of February. So there are quite a lot of programs which are social directed. For instance, we have a program around a children's program and a schools program where we visit schools and teach our kids about what it means to raise a flag and sing the national anthem and all those things. So it's a really community-based engagement before the actual day that is the 21st, where the president addresses the troops.
So all of that, including what happens on the day, is going to cost us 370 million rand?
No, Clement.
How much are we looking at?
I'll be honest with you. We have actually looked at this quite with an eye that says, due to the pressures of the budget that we're experiencing ourselves, what is it that we are going to cut off? For instance, we sometimes spend days on end in that area with a large amount of equipment and troops, and we've reduced that to a bare minimum. And I would not be able right now to give you a ball figure, Clement, in all honesty, because these things are such that we as we go in there, we take a number of people not to sit there all the time. But after the event itself, we can give you how much we've spent. But it's surely, definitely, and it's not going to be 300 and whatever the figure is that is banded in the public domain.
Okay. The Sunday Times reported yesterday that there are some soldiers patrolling our borders complaining of being hungry and sick with severe food shortages and no medicine. Are you aware of these shortages?
Clement, I'm very pleased and really appreciative that you are raising these critical issues and we are discussing them in the public. Clement, day before yesterday, I received a comprehensive report from Joint Operations Division, which is responsible for all our operations, and we gave a comprehensive 2-page response to the paper you mentioned, and unfortunately, I do not determine, nor do we determine what they should and should not print. However, if I may respond to you, the issue of food, I can confirm to you, Clement, that the funding for 2025-26 funding has been adequate and made available for the procurement of rations for troops in all deployment areas. There has been, though, an isolated case in KZN where we've had challenges with the suppliers and the orders that we've made, which have affected our delivery. But we have also supplemented that shortfall with the composite packages of food ration. That is our response to the issue that Sunday Times wrote. We've given them that response.
So you're saying the isolated case is the one in KwaZulu-Natal? That's the only case you know of as the SANDF, and there's no other case of any of our soldiers who are patrolling our borders that have not gotten their food and, of course, those packages?
No, not that I know of, and I do not doubt what the report I got from the Joint Operations Division, which is the division that runs our deployment in the borders. So I do not doubt them. And fortunately, I'm one of those people that actually physically visit these areas so that I get a sense of what is happening. My last visit was in Limpopo area, in Mosina, where I was physically there with the commander of those troops that are deployed in that area. Okay,
just quickly before you leave, and I'll take some reaction on 011-883-0702. You can send WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. Are you able to confirm, Siphiwe, if the SANDF has promoted Soli Lichwenyo to general and commanding officer at the SANDF Special Forces?
Well, during the promotions, I'll have to refer back to the what we call a bulletin, the bulletin that has all the names, and refer that, because that is the official document that I must refer to if somebody has been promoted. I am aware of this issue around promotion, and I've been getting inquiries, Clement, but I have to consult the bulletin that announces all those for me to be able to justifiably and formally and officially say to you, yes, he has, or not he has. Unfortunately, I don't have the document in front of me with you, but I can share with you even offline to say yes or no.
But what you are aware of is that this same gentleman is soon to stand trial for murder.
I am aware, sir.
Okay. Siphiwe Dlamini, SANDF spokesperson, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Siphiwe
Dlamini speaks on behalf of the SAPS. You must go read a story about this Soli Lithuania gentleman who has now, we're told, from reports, being promoted to general and commanding officer at the SANDF Special Forces. I mean, that would be interesting and quite bizarre, given that this is the very same man who is soon to stand trial for the murder of Colonel Franz Matipa. You must go check out the story. It's actually quite crazy. But anything is possible with this government, hey? More so in the military, given what's been happening recently. If they have promoted the very same person to be the head of special forces, and the very same person is soon to stand trial for the murder of Colonel Franz Matipa. But then again, this is South, hey? Alive with possibilities. Chris Hatting is calling us from Potchefstroom, wants to react to that conversation. He's the DA spokesperson on defense and military veterans. Chris, thank you for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
Sharp. What are your thoughts?
I'm astonished with what I heard. This is another reality that other than that I'm exposed to. Let's start off with your last issue with the promotion of now Brigadier General Lithuania. Yeah, he certainly is there, and I really am astonished at the spin that the spokesperson of the SANDF has been put on this. We've been on oversight 10 days ago in the Western Cape at Saldanha, at the 4th Special Forces Regiment. And the Brigadier General was right there for us, with us all day, wearing his general ranking on his shoulders. He's there, and he was introduced as Officer Commanding of the Special Forces. So I don't think there should be any doubt. And I really reject that type of spin coming officially from the SANDF. The problem that we have here is that he is out on bail. And some of the other co-accused must report to the officer commanding of the Special Forces, who is himself. In fact, he should be reporting on a daily basis to himself, which is a total absurd situation. But you say anything is possible in the SANDF. Yes, certainly this is possible, but not everything is possible. For instance, the readiness of the SANDF, which has now come to the front with the withdrawal from the DRC as part of the MONUSCO funds, it's not possible for us to present any type of military force extension into Africa at the moment with credibility. That is not possible.
Well, how much money, Chris? I mean, do we know, and how can we find out how much has already been spent? Because the presidency says we need to consolidate and realign the resources of the SANDF. That's part of the reason. That's really what's influenced the decision to withdraw from this United Nations peacekeeping mission. But Siphiwe Dlamini says he doesn't really have the figures, and even if there's monies that our government has paid, that ends up being reimbursed by the United Nations. Is there a way of actually finding out how much money have we invested in all of this? Because I'm trying to see what kind of difference this is going to make, given the capacity constraints in the SANDF. So is it going to help us more because there's some money that's going to be saved that can go into other priorities?
Well, there's certainly a way to find out that will take time. But let's just look at the deployment, like with the SAMI DRC deployment in the DRC as well as the United Nations or MONUSCO deployment. There's normally contracts that we must supply so many troops, specified missions, and that we should, for instance, supply attack helicopters and so many vehicles, and then we get paid for that. But the problem arises when we, for instance, with our Royal Falk helicopters, of which we had 3 up there, but and we are contracted to provide them, but because of lack of serviceability and maintenance, we cannot provide the service. Then we don't get paid for the service that we don't provide, which we should, under our contractual obligation, should have supplied. But then there are also always, with the SANDF, the hidden costs. For instance, with the SANDF's Cuban obsession, where we have some people training in Cuba and some Cubans working here at exorbitant cost. For instance, last year there was this graduation ceremony, and an aircraft was chartered for 34 million, taking the generals over there to attend the graduation ceremony, and that's not all. For all of this, people are paying so-called S&P, substance and travel allowances, of which at this moment, 5% of the entire SANDF budget goes to this, and it's mostly the senior officers that benefits for them, and the overseas S&T is just escalating. In fact, it has more than doubled in the past 3 years. So we have a situation where in the SANDF, where the S&T is escalating, while our soldiers on the ground level have now, in many instances, been reduced to 2 meals a day.
Chris Hatting, thank you for calling us in Potchefstroom. He's the DA spokesperson on defense and military veterans. He wanted to call in and comment on what Siphiwe Dlamini has told us. He's denying, of course, Siphiwe Dlamini, that is, that there are soldiers that are patrolling our borders, that are not eating, that don't have enough equipment and food and medicine. He says that there was an isolated case in KwaZulu-Natal, but the issue was with just the people, their supply chain process, and not so much that there are no resources and there's no money for medicine or food. And when I asked about how much is going to be spent on Armed Forces Day, he says, well, it's not going to be the 370 million rand as reported, but he says they will reduce equipment and troops because of financial pressure.